Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. The current state at atomweight, where Germany's own Tina Ruprecht reigns as both WBA, WBO, and WBC champion, the best in show, with the only other champion being Sumire Yamanaka of Japan, who holds the IBF title, the last puzzle piece to the atomweight division. By now we know that it is Tina Ruprecht's intention to become an undisputed champion in the new year. The first Germany will have seen in the four-belt era, and the first this division will have ever seen, because to my knowledge, there's never been an undisputed women's champion in the atomweight division. If that sounds familiar, it's because the four alphabet organizations, the major ones, they didn't always have female versions of their alphabet titles, and thus, when an undisputed champion is crowned at these weights, usually they're the first of their kind, like what we saw with Gabi Fundora in the flyweight division. May end up seeing that this year with Tina Ruprecht in the atomweight division, who stands a very good chance of becoming this division's inaugural undisputed champion, and all she's got to do is beat Sumire Yamanaka, who is nowhere near as experienced as she is.
Tina Ruprecht is one of the best.
She's been around a while, though all these years, it seems like her career is finally gaining some traction, some momentum, sporting a professional record of 14 wins with 1 loss, 1 draw, 3 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 16 professional bouts. She used to reign as WBC champion in the minimum weight division for some years, lost the WBC title to Senicia Estrada, and there's no shame in that, moves down in weight, down to atomweight, and goes on an undisputed run. Kicks it off with a win over the Czech Republic's Fabiana Buticki, then unbeaten WBC champion, follows it up with a win over Japan's unified champion, Eri Matsuda, and she is now just 1 belt away from becoming this division's undisputed champion. Last year was a very productive year for Tina, who before that was averaging something like 1 fight a year for 3 or 4 years. She only fought once in 2023, only once in 2022, only once in 2021, and didn't fight at all in 2020. 2024 was the first year in some years that Tina Ruprecht fought more than once in the same calendar year. It was a good year last year for Tina Ruprecht, and it's about to get better. You figure that if she becomes undisputed champion in the atomweight division, there won't be much left for her to do there, so she might return to minimum weight,
Move back up.
where her old buddy Yo Costavalle currently reigns as WBC champion, a 2-time minimum weight champion. As we all know, the reset button at minimum weight has been hit as a result of Senicia Estrada retiring so soon after having become that division's undisputed champion, and now the belts are redistributed. Yo Costavalle's got the WBC. Very recently, Sarah Borman won the WBO. There are 2 reigning champions in the minimum weight division, and 2 more are set to be crowned. These are potential opponent options for Tina Ruprecht if she decides to move back up to minimum weight after unifying the atomweight division. The bigger names and the bigger fights would be at minimum weight,
Even though she's at atomweight now.
So after a champion is crowned, an undisputed champion, they're usually given special privileges and designations that allow them to move up in weight and challenge for a title straight away, challenge a champion. Like when Terence Crawford unified the 140-pound division and was able to move up and challenge Jeff Horn straight away for Jeff's WBO title, Usyk did the same thing.
With Anthony Joshua.
Became an undisputed champion at cruiserweight and thus was able to move up in weight as the mandatory challenger to Anthony's WBO title straight away. This is a privilege that Tina Ruprecht will be afforded if and when she becomes undisputed champion at atomweight. She might be able to move up in weight straight away and challenge her countrywoman and newly crowned WBO champion Sarah Borman.
It's a good fight.
Both fighters, both champions, are German nationals, so nobody would have to travel. That's a potential opponent option for Tina later on down the line, as well as her old buddy, Yo Costavalle.
It's another one.
I remember in 2020, there was talk of doing a rematch between them, but the pandemic hit, shut everything down, and those plans were scrapped. Those plans might be revisited some years later. Tina's not the one that needs it, though. Tina's not the one that needs the rematch. It's Yo Costia to exact vengeance upon her. Tina and Yokasta fought way back there in June of 2018, and Tina won a unanimous decision. Yokasta needs to get a lick back. Yokasta, who's promoted by Golden Boy Promotions here in America. So that might help to bring that fight, that rematch, into fruition. Just some things to think about in the new year. Tina Ruprecht is very close to becoming the atomweight division's undisputed champion, and when she's done with that, she might move up. These are the fighters that she might go after. Just in keeping with the American tradition of hyping up fighters that have done absolutely nothing, a Twitter user that goes by the name Shitty from the Underground said Canelo's run, in avoidance of David Benavidez, Callum Smith, his old sparring partner, Avni Yildirim, Druggy about to retire, Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, Dimitri Bivol, a washed-up Triple G and a UK journeyman in John Ryder, a junior middleweight in Jermel Charlo, a starstruck Jaime Munguia, and a club-level fighter in Edgar Berlanga, now a welterweight Terence Crawford? I take it he's not impressed with Canelo. But he's super impressed with David so far. Another Twitter user responded by saying, Dux is disingenuous, bro. Callum won the WBA and the Ring Magazine, Billy Joe Saunders won the WBO, Plant won the IBF, Bivol, he moved up to light heavyweight. Gritty from the Underground would have none of it. He said, no, it's not. When David Benavidez got stripped, he fought for his belt. Benavidez has been in position ever since, but he chose to use the other mandatory slots and Euro Tour with Eddie. Another American who takes issue with Canelo Alvarez fighting European fighters as if they are somehow less than, even when they're reigning champions. That's what Callum Smith was. That's what Billy Joe Saunders was. Johnny G said, not holding David Benavidez accountable for losing his belt, huh? Come on, fam. Come on. To which Gritty responded, that's not grounds to never get a title shot, homie. Did you hold Canelo accountable for drug cheating? No. Another Twitter user that goes by the name Yasef responded, ducked David Morrell too, and ducked Demetrius Andrade at 154, 160, despite also having a belt, and 168. So let's evaluate this evaluation. If Gritty from the Underground is so concerned with fighters using pads, why would he be endorsing David Benavidez of all people, whose strength and conditioning coach is a known pad dealer? Does he not know who David's strength and conditioning coach is? Does he not know Angel Heredia's history? That if you take issue with fighters using pads, you'd be taking issue with David. You'd take issue with David hiring that guy if that's what this were really all about. It's not. Then you talk about Canelo Alvarez's undisputed run, what many Americans like to call the Euro Tour, as if there's something wrong with fighting European fighters. Didn't Andre Ward make his bones fighting European fighters? Carl Froch ain't from New Jersey. And Sergey Kovalev ain't from Kansas. What? It's only alright when Andre Ward fights European fighters, but when Canelo does it, that's a problem? Message! Some Americans have yet to expand their horizons, still looking down on European fighters, European champions, as if they are somehow less than, even when one of them beats the brakes off of their champion, Deontay Wilder. Forget so soon? Tyson Fury beat Wilder, and Alexander Usyk beat Fury. Forget so soon? The last two undisputed champions you've seen crowned in the light heavyweight division and the heavyweight division were both from Europe, not America. So maybe what you need to do is stop looking down on European fighters, since some of the best fighters in the world come from different parts of Europe. Canelo's undisputed run. You talk about Canelo Alvarez's undisputed run and the history that he's made in the super middleweight division as if it's something to sneeze at, as if it were easy to do. If it were so easy to do, why didn't David do it? David was there at 168 before Canelo. He was there for years. This guy first won the WBC title way back there in 2017 and never lifted a finger to unify it. So explain to me how Canelo Alvarez could come in after you, do all the heavy lifting, unify this entire weight class before you. What the hell were you doing? You were there before him. You talk about the fighters that Canelo Alvarez fought, the champions, whether it's Callum Smith or Billy Joe, and those would be the best names, the very best names on David's resume. The best name there is a guy Canelo Alvarez knocked out,
a guy David didn't.
Caleb Plant, you got some kind of problem? You got some kind of issue with Canelo fighting Jaime Munguia? The same Jaime Munguia that David wanted to fight.
Did you forget?
Why should Canelo Alvarez fighting either Jaime Munguia or Edgar Berlanga be a problem when those are the same two guys that David wanted to fight? Did you have a problem with David wanting to fight those fighters that you now have a problem with Canelo having fought them?
Huh?
That fighting Jaime Munguia or fighting Edgar Berlanga is only all right if David Benavidez wants to do it, but if Canelo does it, it's a problem.
Double standards.
It's the only kind of standards these people have. And now you're hyping up an 11-0 David Morrell?
Seriously.
Canelo's undisputed run consisted of 3 unbeaten champions, all 3 more accomplished and more proven than David Morrell and his 11 fights over no-hopers, yet for some reason, you tear them down and hype him up?
Same shit from the same people.
It's always the same. In keeping with the American tradition of hyping up fighters that have done absolutely nothing.
Demetrius Andrade.
They mentioned Demetrius Andrade, and it's the funniest thing because while Demetrius has campaigned at many of the same weights as Canelo, whether it's 154, 160, or 168,
He didn't fight shit.
he didn't fight nobody at 154. Nobody at 160 or 168, save David, who beat his ass.
That's it.
At 154, Canelo Alvarez fought an unbeaten Austin Trout, a hot potato in Arislandi Lara, a reigning WBO champion in Liam Smith. At 160, he fought the consensus #1 middleweight in the world in Gennady Golovkin.
Number 1.
Not once, but twice. Moved on from that to unified titles with then IBF champion Danny Jacobs.
Are you gonna tell me that Danny wasn't a good fighter at the time? That the scalp of Danny Jacobs was not a good scalp when Canelo fought him?
Bullshit.
That you're still standing here playing guys like Demetrius Andrade, the violin, for having done what and beaten who?
2 of the guys you're hyping up, David Benavidez and David Morrell, are about to fight each other, and you don't seem happy.
Whoever wins gets to fight the winner of Better B versus Bivol. You don't like that fight?
How are you still stuck talking about Canelo Alvarez?
What about him?
Hate to break the news to you, sweetheart, but your expectations are far too uneven. You expect Canelo to fight every man, woman, and his dog, but you don't expect anything from David Benavidez, David Morrell, Demetrius Andrade.
All of these guys that don't matter.
Like you don't matter. Did you even buy David Benavidez's first 2 pay-per-view appearances? Are you gonna buy the next one? Because if you're not, what you think don't matter.
That's how it works. You have to create the demand, and you're not doing that with snarky comments on Twitter.
Canelo Alvarez's legacy as a fighter is no more contingent on a David Benavidez fight than Floyd Mayweather's was on a Keith Thurman fight, or an Amir Khan fight, an Antonio Margarito fight. Spare me.
Please.
Canelo Alvarez can retire right here and right now. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but when David retires,
You be able to say the same about him? Because if you can't, he's just gonna be another forgotten fighter.
it's American tradition of hyping up fighters that have done absolutely nothing, done the bare minimum.
Please.
If what David Benavidez is after is legacy, if what he really wants to do is fight the best, fight the winner of Better B versus Bivol.
Why doesn't he spend a bit more time on that? Why don't you?
Because you're scared. Underneath it all, that's not what you really want. That's why you're still stuck talking about Canelo. What about Canelo? He's at 168, David's at 175. Move on with your life. Men's heavyweight news. The WBA's new heavyweight rankings. We all know the WBA champion, the full champion, is Alexander Usyk. The regular champion is Kubrat Pulev. Ranked at number 1 is Fabio Wardley.
That's the story.
After his stellar victory over David Adelaide, knockout win his 2 fights with standout amateur Olympian Fraser Clark, he's achieved a number 1 rank via the WBA that I think lines him up. Not for Alexander Usyk. He's not ready for Alexander Usyk. I don't know that he ever will be. But he might be ready for Kubrat Pulev, who recently picked up the WBA regular title from then regular champion Mahmoud Char. Kubrat Pulev, a remnant of the Klitschko era that's still hanging around, 43 years old and saw action 2 times last year, last in action last month against Mahmoud Char for that WBA regular title. That's the title I think Flavio is going to go after. You have to remember about Fabio that he doesn't come from some deep amateur background. Couple of white-collar fights, that's it. He's basically learning on the job, though because he's so naturally gifted, a natural.
With heavy hands and quickness.
Killer instincts. He is able to compete at this level, a fight with a 43-year-old Kubrat Pulev would double as an opportunity to line himself up for a title, a full title, yes, but also a developmental fight, in a manner of speaking, a bring-along fight. The WBA regular title in and of itself is just a trinket, a meaningless trinket that the WBA uses to siphon more money from more fighters. But if Fabio Wardley can pick it up, it lines him up for the full title that Usyk has. And I don't think the plan is to put Fabio in there with Usyk so much as holding that position so that if and when Usyk retires and the belts are redistributed, Flavio can pick that one up.
The full WBA title.
There's no rush when it comes to Flavio because his true value isn't some trinket that the WBA designates anyway. His true value is his domestic value, his drawing power that's on the up and up now that he's beaten both David Adelaide and Frazier Clark.
He can start headlining his own shows. I vaguely recall Frank Warren saying something about bringing him to Ipswich, giving him a homecoming fight.
In case you forgot, Fabio Wardley recently inked a pact with Queensberry Promotions, where a good number of good heavyweights are.
A good move.
We can expect to see him fighting on the DAZN platform as Queensberry makes its migration from TNT Sport over to DAZN later on this year. A Kubrat Pulev fight seems likely. Kubrat Pulev of Bulgaria, a standout amateur and a seasoned veteran WBA regular champion whose best punch is his jab. That's his money punch.
His best weapon.
He's always been a crafty boxer to where nothing really jumps out at you. Not speed, not necessarily power, though he does know how to handle himself.
Always has.
I don't know if you could call him a lighter touch for Fabio Wardley, who still has a lot to learn. He should not look past him if they are to fight, and based on these updated rank standings, it looks like they're on a collision course. And when most of the money in the heavyweight division is centered around the British boxing scene, it's conceivable that we may see a Queensberry Promotion show headlined by Fabio Wardley and Kubrat Pulev. Sporting a professional record of 32 wins with 3 losses, no draws,
14 knockouts, having been knocked out 2 times in 35 professional bouts.
Guys who stopped him, the first one to do it was Vladimir Klitschko way back there in 2014. Some years later, Anthony Joshua stopped him.
Can Fabio Wardley stop him?
Just stopped Frazier Clark in all of 1 round. This is an interesting fight to me. I would like to see it. Kubrat Pulev brings to the table the kind of experience that you can't buy.
35 fights is a lot of fights from the Klitschko era till now.
And this is where things begin to get even more serious for Fabio. He's past that rite of passage, taking on another unbeaten up-and-comer like himself at the domestic level, now entering into world level. If there is a world champion in you, then you should be able to make it past a 43-year-old Kubrat Pulev. Fabio's proven himself to be a shrewd businessman. He's boxed under the Matchroom banner, the Boxer banner, now Queensberry. He's in a position to do big things.
But it only gets harder from here on out.